Good morning. Please remain standing for our national anthem and then remain standing for a moment of silence. Gentlemen. Let's give her one more hand. Are there any happy people here today? This is Mother's Day weekend. If you are a mother, would you stand and let us recognize you here on Mother's Day? Welcome to the May 2014 commencement ceremonies. Thank you for joining us today as we recognize the accomplishments and honor the 2014 East Central University graduates. At this time, I would like to introduce a few special guests. My wife, Kay. Thank you. Our speaker, Becky Payton's mother, Leora Gallup, husband, Russell Payton, daughter, J.C. Martin, who's also an ECU alum. Several grandchildren as well. Would the grandchildren please stand? Cody, come on. If you are an ECU alum, we always say, once a tiger, always a tiger. Let's honor the alums. All right, students, somebody helped you get through this today. So I want the parent, spouse, child, grandparent to stand, and the students, you find them and thank them. Blow them a kiss, wave at them, whatever. Acknowledge the people that helped you get here today. ECU has a very proud tradition to be a military-friendly university. If you are a veteran, please stand and let's all give a special thanks to people who keep us free. East Central University is known statewide as having the most caring, nurturing, dedicated faculty, staff. If you are a faculty or staff, would you please stand and be recognized? Students. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to introduce distinguished guests on the platform. They will stand as I introduce them. Please do not applaud until they have all been introduced. On my far left, Dr. Mark Hollingsworth, Professor of Music Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and today's announcer. Dr. Bruce Weems, Professor of Physics, Dean of the College of Health and Sciences, and the Senior Faculty Member at East Central University. And Ms. Phyllis Danley, Director of University Advancement and Executive Director of the ECU Foundation. On my far right, Dr. Dwayne Anderson, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, and Ms. Becky Payton, our commencement speaker today, who will be more properly introduced shortly. Please be seated. It says it right here in the script. Tell them to sit down. It's my pleasure today to introduce the 2014 Distinguished Alum of East Central University, Ms. Becky Payton. Ms. Payton is the Regional Vice President for Human Resources for the Mercy Health System and has been in that position since 2008. She leads the Human Resource Strategy for all 12 of Mercy's Oklahoma hospitals with over 70 physician practices, which includes over 7,200 employees. Prior to that, she was Vice President for Johnson Controls. She worked at Viscase, Prepaid Legal when she lived here in Ada, and General Tire. Becky earned her bachelor's degree as an English major with minor in speech and journalism from East Central University in 1976. She also has 3 siblings who also graduated from East Central: Dr. Regina Gallup Robertson, Mary Gallup Garber, and Michael Gallup. There's a long line of distinguished alums from Stratford, Oklahoma, I've got to tell you. Whatever Stratford's doing, the water over there must be great. While at East Central University, Becky Payton was active in the Chi Omega sorority, the Student Senate, where she served 4 years, the last year as president. While in the Student Senate, she led an effort to get East Central State College's name changed to East Central University. She's been named as one of the top 50 women in the state of Oklahoma. After graduation, Payton stayed involved here at ECU by joining the Alumni Association, serving as president, and also being an adjunct professor for 2 years. She is married to Russell Payton. She has 2 children, J.C. Leanne Devereaux Martin, who is an East Central alum, and Jill Renee Devereaux Flanders, and 3 stepchildren, Brandon Heath Payton, Justin Kyle Payton, Kai Nicole Payton Davis. Please join me in welcoming back to East Central, Ms. Becky Payton.
Faculty, graduates, families, and distinguished guests. First of all, I can't tell you how delighted I am to be here and to receive this honor. It's truly a highlight of my life. And many of you out there know and love, as a professor, my sister Regina Robertson. And I know you know she gives advice a lot. So I asked her, what advice do you give me as the speaker at the graduation, because you've been to so many of them? And she looked at me and said, keep it short. So, I'm going to follow her advice this time, but I do have just a few things I'd like to say. I like to start things off many times because I think the stories, we all have stories, and the stories in our lives are the ones that really make us who we are. And several years ago, a gentleman who I worked with told me, he's just an outstanding leader and a really good friend, became a good friend. And we were talking philosophically about how we are and who we are today. And he said, you know, Becky, it's really the people who do things for you that you don't even realize they do for you that mold and impact your life. This is a true story. This gentleman was a little boy, and I'm going to call him Johnny to protect his name. But Johnny and his brother were very, very poor. And they lived out in the country between Ada and Garcorn, sort of between Oil Center and that area. And they had many, many kids in their family, and he and his brother were the youngest too. And they really were very, very poor and had no money. And every Saturday morning, those 2 boys would pull their wagons to town. They would walk all the way, and they would pick up scrap metal on their way to town. And the reason they did that is because they didn't have any money, and there was another man who sold who bought scrap iron. So they would pick up scrap iron and pop bottles, and they would put it in their wagon, and they would walk up to this man, and he would give them 25 cents for their wagon full of scrap iron. And so they would go to the movies every Saturday. And then he said one Saturday they got up and they got their clothes on and they got their wagons and they walked into town and they picked up scrap metal, and the man said, "You know what? The price of scrap metal has just gone up. It has gone up to 35 cents. And the boys were so happy that they didn't know that the price went up. And they took their wagons and they went into the McSwain Theater, and guess what? The price of the movies had just gone up to 35 cents. And he didn't realize till years later that that man wasn't really buying their scrap metal. He was just trying to help two poor kids get to go to the movies every Saturday. So the impact that people have on our lives, we sometimes don't know until many years later. I want to say that East Central means a great deal to me and impacted my life greatly. I have many, many lifelong friends here. I have had many professors that, although it was 38 years ago when I graduated from school here, that still have impacted my life. People like Dr. Bullard, who was a physics teacher and taught math, and I couldn't pass math. And if it hadn't been for Dr. Bullard, I would have never gotten out of East Central because I couldn't do math. He said, "Becky, do speech and English. You're way better at that, and I'll help you get through this math class." Dr. Rudy Lewis encouraged me to do things I never thought I could do. He literally said to me, "Get your life on track and become a leader. I know you can do it." And if he hadn't have done that, I would have never, ever held the leadership positions that I held. Peggy Nims, I don't know how many of you have been blessed by Peggy Nims, but she taught me the love of literature and the love of writing. Dr. Jim Harris is the kind of guy that could tell history and teach it just like it was out of a Ken Follett novel or a Ken Follett book, and taught me the love of that. And then there's my mother and my father who way before taught us the things. And as President Hargrave had all of you wave to your families, I'm telling you, the impact they've had on your life, I know you realize, but you will only realize it more the longer you go. She had this little game she would play with us when we were little. Now, my mom raised 5 kids, and one of the things she would say is, "I want all of you to do something nice for somebody today." Well, that's not hard to do. Little kids can think of nice things to do. But she said the trick is you cannot tell anybody that you did it. Now, do you know how hard it is when you're 10 years old to go do something nice for your brother or sister and not tell anybody that you did it? It was practically impossible. But the kind of lessons like that like my mother taught us and that your parents have taught you, are the kind of things that make you realize years later that it's not, you don't do things to get the recognition. You do them because they're the right thing to do. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I was afraid I would tear up during that part, but you know, if Kevin Durant can cry, hey, so there's some of you out here that came straight to East Central from high school. Steve and Madison McKenzie, and you've had your parents who have been there to help you every step of the way, and you're starting your whole life is ahead of you. And then there's those of you, as President Hargrave, I was so honored to hear him honor the veterans. And there's Luis Reyes is out there today, and he went and fought for our country. And all those people that fight for us, we don't know what they do every day, but they impact our lives. And now came back to college and got a degree, and I'm just blown away by the way people continue to do things for others. So, you know, if you look at the list of 100 most influential people, I actually looked it up, the 100 most influential people of all time, and there's names on there like Albert Einstein, George Washington, and Isaac Newton. But I'm going to tell you who's probably never going to be on that list of the world's 100 most. President Hargrave, teachers like Dr. Christine Pappas, Dr. Rich Alford, Regina Robertson, they're not going to be on that list. But they're the ones that are going to be the people who have influenced you. And all the other people, the people in your life that maybe they didn't give you the money to go to the movies, but they did little things for you to help you get where you are today. So everyday heroes are somebody that's what's important. We can't all be Steve Jobs, but who's on your list of the 100 most influential people? And I will tell you that many of those people were here at East Central and are my lifelong friends that are here today in my family, and I think you can stay the same. I want you to take a little time today to thank them, but more importantly, I want you to think about the things that you can do to impact other people's lives. And always remember, it's the little things that count, and to be kind to one another. Walt Disney once said, "We see ourselves through our intentions, and other people see us through our actions." So before I wish you a final blessing, I would like to say this little prayer. Grant me the faith and courage and put purpose in my days, and show me how to serve thee in effective ways. So my education, my knowledge, and my skill may find their true fulfillment as I learn to do thy will. And may I ever be aware in everything I do that knowledge comes from learning and wisdom comes from you. Best wishes and success for a wonderful future. Thank you.